Hello everybody, my name is KingStix. In this video I'm going to be showing you how to play Shaco Jungle perfectly here in Season 10. In this Shaco Jungle guide there will be valuable information for both AD and AP Shaco. With that being said, this guide will be focusing primarily on AD Shaco. So many things have changed here in Season 10 League of Legends, and this video is jam-packed full of information, so make sure you stay all the way to the end to get the most value possible out of it. If you want to play AD Shaco, this is the setup you're going to want to be running. The only thing I have to note here is if you're good at kiting monster camps and if you're good at jungling in general, it's best to go for regen bead and hunter talisman instead of going for hunter talisman and refillable potion. If you're still new to jungle or not great at clearing effectively, going for a refillable potion will keep you healthier. It'll just make your Tiamat rush take a little bit longer. If you want to play AP Shaco, these are the runes and items you're going to want to be taking. In terms of runes, the main difference between AP and AD Shaco is AP Shaco prioritizes getting free boots and cooldown reduction in his secondary tree. Meanwhile, AD Shaco can derive much more value by going for precision as his secondary tree. The first thing you're going to want to do when the game starts is get your hunter talisman and a regen bead. If you're not good at clearing, you can go ahead and pick up a refillable potion. Or if you're playing AP Shaco Jungle, you should be getting a refillable potion every time. The point of the regen bead is for the Tiamat rush. You should be laying your first box no later than the 34-second mark in a defensive location to defend your first buff. Here you see me lay it out, so if the enemies try to invade, it'll give us a lot of protection. Usually when they step into it, they'll just leave and it will deter their effort since they know that you know that they're there. It's important that you lay it no later than the 34-second mark because you're going to want to lay your second box on top of your first buff at the 50-second mark. The boxes last for 40 seconds and the buff spawns in at exactly 130, so if you put it in at 150, it'll be there to fight the buff. Your third box you will be putting on top of your Krugs and the fourth box onto your buff once again. Set up your two boxes on your buff in a pinching pattern, that way you can double stack the fear. This wasn't a great example since I didn't quite stagger the fear, but you get the idea. Make sure you ask for a leash from your bot lane because if you don't get a leash, the timing on your Krugs will get messed up. After you finish your red buff, hop over the wall, toss down a W and take the Krugs. If you don't intend on invading the enemy jungler, feel free to use your smite on the big Krug and practice moving in between each auto attack to hit them from behind. Your passive has no cooldown, so every time you hit something in the back, you will be doing bonus damage with your auto attacks and your E. On raptor camps, try to kill the little ones first and make sure they don't all immediately attack your box, so try to hit it once or twice before you lay your W. Once the fear does go off, try to let half of them attack the box and the other half attack you. By the time they finish killing the box, it will have expired anyways. As you can see, I didn't use a refillable potion and I'm full health after clearing that raptor camp. You can really mess up your clear if you lay your box then go invisible on the raptor camp. They'll kill it so fast that you'll get zero value out of your box and you won't be able to clear it at that point. Without getting your box's AoE spread damage, you won't have the AoE hunter talisman burn with the hunter talisman healing, and you just won't be able to take the camp at that point. You have to skip it and move on. The rule of thumb on Shaco is you don't want to gank before level 3 and red buff. If you don't have red buff and if you're not level 3 on Shaco, you're prematurely ganking, you'll be giving away your position and you'll be giving up a lot of free resources. Without red buff in level 3, you also have a lot less kill potential. If a gank doesn't present itself after your level 3 with red buff, continue to farm out the rest of your jungle until an opportunity does present itself. You'll usually end up skipping Gromp to go in for an early gank or to pressure Scuttle Crab, but you can always return to it later or hit it in your second clear. In this case, I saw a gank top, plus my blue buff was stolen, so I just went for it. After the gank, I can either invade the enemy's jungle if I feel like I can beat them in a fight, otherwise I can go and pressure the Scuttle Crab. Since you want to start with your bot lane 9 out of 10 times for the best leash possible, now I'm going to show you how to clear your blue side jungle. It's very similar but a little bit different. Once again, you want to try to lay your first box to defend your jungle. This game I didn't get out in time, so I didn't have enough time to lay it, otherwise I would have messed up my clear. If you leave base late, just skip the first box, which is the defensive box guarding your jungle. Make sure to get a box down on your buff, in this case blue buff, no later than the 51-second mark. Put your second box down on your Gromp. Then on your third box, you're going to want to put it right here next to the Blast Cone and Wolf Camp. That way we can utilize it later without triggering the box prematurely on the Wolf Camp spawn. Once again, if you're going to be doing this aggressive power farm style to get yourself really far ahead in the early game, you will need a leash. Otherwise, your boxes will trigger early and you won't be able to get there in time. Same thing, in between each auto attack, move around to the backside of the monster and strike it. You'll be doing way more damage this way by fully utilizing your passive. Normally, you will be using your smite on the Gromp. In this case, for some random reason, Rakan gave me the leash of a lifetime, so I didn't really need to, but normally the Gromp will get you low on HP, but after you smite it, you'll be close to full HP. Next, hit the Blast Cone, and if you place your box properly, it'll come over the wall with you. Then you can lay another box and take the wolves really quickly. Once again, with every camp, try to hit it in the back as much as possible to maximize your damage and clear speed. Like we mentioned, at this point you wouldn't really want to gank since we don't have red buff yet. The rule is you want to be level 3 and have red buff. Otherwise, you're missing out on a lot of kill potential, you're giving away your position on the map, and you're potentially risking your red buff to the enemy jungler taking it by you giving away your position. You shouldn't try to solo dragon until you're level 6 on Shaco. Once you are level 6, you can solo it really fast. Just have your clone tank it while you smack it from behind. If you have no idea where any of the enemy laners are, it's not a great choice, because if they do show up on you, especially if you don't have smite, you're gonna have to leave it and you'll have gotten it nice and low for them. Assuming you kill the enemies first, then do dragon, or you know exactly where they are though, it's typically pretty safe to do solo as long as you have your ultimate. When taking scuttles on Shaco, try to smite it once you have it feared. Your smite will be doing a lot more damage this way. Shaco is really good at 2v2 situations, assuming your teammate is the one tanking. It allows you to constantly hit the enemies in the back like you see here. As they both chase on to Victor, I'm getting non-stop extra backstab damage from my passive and on top of my E as well. Nocturne's greedy. I'm going to Q out of the bush, try to get as close as I can to him. After I get behind him, I non-stop pound him with my autos and hit him with my E from behind as well. If you can only use your E once in a fight, and if the enemies are close to 30% HP, try to knock them down below 30% HP before you use it, because your E does 50% more damage if the target is below 30% HP. Here's an example of what a normal gank should look like. After you have red buff in your level 3, you're going to come up behind the enemies. If you can't utilize a wall, that's okay. Just keep behind them, get a box down behind them, auto attack E or E auto attack, stay on top of them with your red buff autos, and then use your ignite if you have to. In this case, it was very obvious we were going to get the kill regardless, so I stayed on top of him and I didn't bother wasting it. A Mumu shows up, so I lay a box on top of myself defensively. I Q away, E him. Since I was in a losing fight, if my teammate wasn't nearby, I would have just Q'd away or gone over the wall to escape. He then foolishly engages on top of me, he gets feared, I ignite him, and then I walk away. If you're gonna lose the fight or you're having to play defensively, laying a box on top of yourself is really OP. In this situation, I ult, finish off the Kel, QA from the Nocturne. I then lay a defensive box, ignite E Nocturne baiting him into me, and then the second he goes within my box range, within less than a tenth of a second, it fears him, and then I finish him off with an auto. A perfect example of the strength of Shaco's boxes when utilized correctly. If you're in a situation where you can 1v1 the enemies without needing a box, you can hold on to it for longer until you know where they're gonna run. Here I cut off a Mumu, his only escape path is to his turret. I lay down my box in front. Obviously he's not going to walk into it, so I just stand there and hack him to death. You do need to be mindful of not laying your box too close to a turret when you are trying to lay it behind the enemies. If you lay it within the turret's attack range, it will kill your box instantly like you see here, and you'll get zero value out of it. If I would have laid it slightly less far, I would have gotten off the Fear and the Dark Harvest proc on Syndra. One of the biggest things that makes a Shaco player a great Shaco player is knowing how much damage you can take. If you can stick it out in a close fight and get the enemies to turn around, you'll wrap the fight up super fast with your backstab damage. In this upcoming situation, it's hard for me to get directly behind them since they run so far back, so I don't actually use my box. Since they're not turning and since I can't get my box behind them, there's no value in me laying it, so I can get much higher value out of just auto attacking and using my E, and not wasting valuable time to lay down a box. Now, if they would have turned on me, or if I could have gotten behind them properly with the box, then yes, of course, I would use it. Nocturne's missing a chunk of HP and he's out of mana, so I want to push into his jungle. Just in case he was watching me from the bush, I activate my sweeper, make sure this isn't warded, make sure he wasn't there. And I also laid my box in the bush, just in case he does show up, I can pinch him really hard, Q on top of him, and get him while he's feared. After taking his raptors, I'm going to continue to move into the rest of his camps. I saw his red buff had spawned in, and I can also check his golems as well. I am starting to get low on health health though, so I want to yank it into the bush. Otherwise, I'm risking giving them way too much information that they can act upon. Running away on Shaco is really easy. You can literally just throw a box down or a Q away over a wall. The enemies really have no business trying to chase you unless they're a double dash champion like LeBlanc or a Twisted Fate with a TF ult. When you invade the enemy's jungle, try to save your Q just in case if they do show up, you'll have more options. You don't want to be wasting your Q on monster camps. Even though I didn't need it in this case, if more than one person showed up, I definitely would have wanted it. Even better than just running up behind the enemies and dropping a box is utilizing walls and bushes on Shaco. Walls and bushes are Shaco's best friend. Here in the spot lane gank, I'm going to utilize the bush, get to the end of it, then Q to the next one and lay my box behind the Nami. I do E her a little on the early side. The reason why I do it is to slow her down for my Leona, since Shaco E is a movement speed slow. I didn't want to hold on to it and risk Leona missing her combo. I pinked the bush so I know she can't see me. I queued here a little early. I should have waited for my W cooldown to come back up. That way I could have gotten a box behind Caitlyn and feared her for me and my teammates. So now instead, as I go on to Caitlyn, I don't have my box to put behind her, so it's difficult for my teammates to follow up. The only reason why this situation worked out well is because she messed up her E, which leads to Leona landing her full CC combo. As Leona goes into the turret, I throw down my box. It does luckily target Leona first, so it doesn't instantly kill my box. And my box goes off, fears her, and we get the kill. Other than getting the kill itself, it can be really valuable to gank a second time on Shaco to get the Dark Harvest stack, even if you can't get the kill. When you use Tiamat in a Shaco gank, try to save it until you can't auto attack them anymore. Use it like an auto attack resetter, such as auto attack Tiamat or auto attack Tiamat. Tiamat does have more range than your autos, which is why I generally recommend using it after they're outside of your auto attack range. Like we discussed, just about every beefy wall in the game you can go over, so if you're in a pinch or trying to pull off a really spicy gank, here the enemy shoved up really far, so I just use my bot lane wall to Q over. I'm waiting on my cooldowns right now, so I'm going to chase down, try to juke. I get down my E slow, juke out the Thresh Q, auto attack, then Q to close the distance and hit him with my empowered auto backstab. I then bait out the Caitlyn by pretty much standing still and waiting for my E to come off of a cooldown. Since she was below 3rd HP and I had my Dark Harvest proc again since I killed Thresh, it did a lot of damage. Throughout the game, for ganks and kill securing, you're going to want to constantly look to jump over walls and utilize bushes to help you close the distance on top of the enemies. After finishing off Syndra, I know I can solo the Amumu since I have a gold advantage. I get my box down behind him, E ultimate, and now there's nothing he can really do. There's very few champions that can take on a full HP Shaco and a full HP Shaco clone at once. It's pretty much only if they're way more fed than you. Once you hit level 6, I highly recommend you gank the enemy bot lane to take full advantage of just how OP Shaco's ultimate is. It gives you a lot of tankiness and a whole lot of damage. You typically want to use it after you've already used your Q. In this case, I use my Q to close distance. I get on top of them, ultimate, and pound it out. Make sure you are tasking your clone to attack whoever you're trying to kill. If you don't task it at all, sometimes it'll end up just hitting a minion or kind of just standing there in general. Do take full advantage of the fact that your clone can smash turrets. It'll help you blow through the enemy's base much faster. In the late game on Shaco, you're constantly going to be looking to secure kills for your team, but more importantly, hunting squishies down when they're out of position. Here, Nami reroutes over the wall. My bot lane's pushing, so it's very obvious she's going to come to back up her Caitlyn. I act like I'm running away, but instead I'm going to run back over to the wall, Q over it, lay down a box, auto attack E the Nami, and then finish her off with my Ignite. AD Shaco is very similar to Evelynn in this way. One of his best moves in the late game is just trying to find people who are weaker than him, isolate them, cut off their pathing, and kill them. He tends to struggle in true 5v5 team fights since he is squishy. If you get hit by 1 or 2 CCs, you'll die really fast. AP Shaco plays a little bit differently than AD Shaco in the late game. AD Shaco relies on isolating targets and soloing squishies. AP Shaco plays more around poking, hit and runs, and securing kills on targets with his large burst damage on his E. In this clip, what you're watching right now, I am AD Shaco. This is just an example of what AP Shaco looks like late game. It looks like this, but stronger because AP Shaco has way more damage on his E ability. If you guys want to see more Shaco Jungle content, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you want to see some AP Shaco Jungle content right now, I currently have a guide up titled How to Play Shaco Jungle Like a Pro. That entire video is primarily centered around how to play AP Shaco Jungle. There's a lot of spicy stuff in it. Anyways, if you guys did enjoy the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. My name is KingStix. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.
so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright.